What's going on, guys? In this video, I'll be listing the 10 most disappointing teams from the 2023 college football season. Now, before I start this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and also turn on notifications so you never miss a daily upload, because we post daily college football videos. But without further ado, let's talk about some disappointing teams in 2023. Now, to start off, at number 10, I got Mississippi State. I didn't really know who I was going to put at number 10, and I didn't know until I looked at Mississippi State's past seasons. And this is actually the first time since 2009 that Mississippi State hasn't made a bowl game. That's pretty impressive. They did have a pretty bad 2020 season, but they still went to a bowl game. But as of now in 2023, they're with a 5-7 record and not going to a bowl game for the first time since 2009. Mississippi State has been pretty bad this year, and they only have one win in the SEC. Their only SEC win was a 7-3 win against Arkansas. So I mean, win by any means, right? But this team has been pretty bad this year. But I do believe they just got Oklahoma's offensive coordinator as their new coach, so maybe they'll be better in the future. But you also had your quarterback Will Rogers hit the transfer portal. At number 9, I got San Diego State. San Diego State's the only Group of 5 team I have on this list, and rightfully so. They've been terrible this year with absolutely no offense, and they came into the season projected to win only 7 games. But now they're dead last in the conference at 4-8. If you're last in a Group of 5 conference, that basically sums up how much of a disappointment your team is. But I mean, at least San Diego State finished their season with the win against Fresno State, so that's a plus. And something similar this team had to Mississippi State is that this is actually their first losing record since 2009. San Diego State has had multiple 10-win seasons in the 2010s, so being 4-8 is a pretty bad look for a team that is usually a decent Group of 5 school. And for number 8, I got Arkansas. As much as a disappointment Mississippi State was, no SEC school is as disappointing as Arkansas. Arkansas was projected to win 7 games on the season, but just like Mississippi State and San Diego State, they finished near the bottom of the conference. The only SEC school worse than Arkansas and Mississippi State is Vanderbilt, but there's nothing surprising there. But what makes this Arkansas team even more disappointing is that they played a terrible non-conference schedule, and 3 of their wins came against FIU, an FCS school, and Kent State. And Kent State you can basically say is an FCS school, because they are horrid. Not only did they lose 8 games on the year, they lost 5 games by 1 possession. Arkansas seemed like they always have decent talent but can't finish games. Definitely a very disappointing season for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now at number 7, I got Baylor. Now I could have put Cincinnati here for finishing last in the Big 12, but Cincinnati just moved up for the Big 12, and I'm not really surprised that they're bad. But Baylor was projected to win around 7 to 8 games this year, as their season over-under was at 7.5. Baylor started their year off by losing by double digits against Utah's backup quarterback when they had the lead and should have won the game. And to end their season, they lost their last 5 games. They even lost to a pretty mid-Houston team. Baylor was expected to be a little bit better, but nope, they were just a very bad team in 2023, finishing 3-9 on the year, which is a lot worse than they were expected to finish. But they did just hire a new offensive coordinator, so we'll see what they can do moving forward going into the Big 12. And number 6, I got Washington State. I might not have had Washington State on here if they didn't start the season 4-0 with wins against 2 ranked teams at the time, and they were ranked in the top 15 after their win against Oregon State. But after they started 4-0, they got worse every single week. It was honestly just sad because people were so hyped for this team. And I believe quarterback Cam Ward was near the top of the Heisman race. And even though they had a bad season, it wasn't Cam Ward's fault. The dude literally carried the team. But after starting 4-0, ranked in the top 15, they somehow managed to finish 5-7 after going on a 6-game losing streak, including a 44-6 beatdown by Arizona. But it seemed the last 2 weeks that Washington State was starting to get momentum going after beating Colorado 56-14. But ultimately, the season was very disappointing because I feel like this team didn't really play up to their standards they're capable of playing. And we can see this team playing really good football, but there was a huge stretch they looked like they didn't even want to be on the field. And Cam Ward is getting out of Washington State. And Washington State isn't even going to be in a conference next year. So this team could get even worse, who knows? Because Cam Ward basically carried that whole team. And number 5, I got TCU. Now I know a lot of people knew TCU wasn't going to be nearly as good as last year, but did anyone actually believe they would start the year losing to Colorado? And Colorado ultimately finished 4-8 after being overhyped. I expected maybe an 8-win season out of TCU after being the national champion runner-up, but then they went straight down to the ground, finishing 5-7 when TCU was projected to win around 7 or 8 games, and their over-under on the season was at 7.5. But I will say they did lose a lot of players to the draft and graduation, and they lost their quarterback Max Duggan, who was actually robbed of winning the Heisman last year. But it was definitely a weird season for TCU this year after making the national title just last year, and now they can't even make a bowl game. And at number 4, I got Miami. Some people may not agree with this, but Miami really disappointed me. After starting 4-0, I was really high on this team. They looked very different from last year, and Mario Cristobal has done a good job recruiting there. But then I seen one of the most disappointing ends to a game ever. It was just stupid and completely proved me wrong on how I felt about Miami. It all started with Mario Cristobal having them run the ball after having the ball and expecting them to take a knee. That's all they had to do. The game was over. But nope, of course. He has their guys run the ball and they fumble, and Georgia Tech then goes on to completely destroy Miami's secondary after getting the ball back to win the game. And then, of course, Mario Cristobal in a press conference puts his players under the bus. I lost a lot of respect for Mario Cristobal after that. And at that point, I was like, why did I have any hope for this team? Mario Cristobal has red flags everywhere. He did the same thing at Oregon. Like, seriously, just kneel the ball. That fumble that lost the game made it easy enough to put Miami this high on the list. They really disappointed me, and I'm not even a Miami fan. I was just simply high on the team. And I was trying to give them credit where it was due. But now I have absolutely no hope for Miami. At number 3, I got Wisconsin. Wisconsin wasn't a bad team this year, but they definitely didn't live up to the expectations. And a lot of people were expecting a 9 or 10 win season out of them. But after losing to Washington State again to start the year, it killed a lot of hope after they dropped out of the top 25. But okay, they did win their next 3 games, and they were 4-1 at that point. But ultimately, they did finish 7-5 in a pretty bad Big Ten conference. And they couldn't beat no offense Iowa and lost to Northwestern by double digits. And then they went on to lose to Indiana. And their quarterback just wasn't good at all this year. So of course, another year where there's no competition in the Big Ten outside of Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. Iowa is not a good team. They have no offense and play bad teams every week. And they win games by 3 points or less almost every time. And when Iowa did play a good team, they got shut out 31-0. But I am so excited that we're seeing some good schools joining the Big Ten, so there'll be more competition. I don't necessarily agree with how far the teams will have to travel to play, but it's whatever. They'll adapt, I guess. Just like everyone is adapting to NIL and transfer portal, even though people don't agree with it. I do like the idea of a 12-team playoff, though. Now, my last 2 teams are very clear. Nobody else has been nearly as disappointing as these last 2 teams. And at number 2, I have Clemson. A lot of people expected Clemson to be a legit playoff contender, and they were ranked 9 to start the year. But they started their season with a 28-7 loss to Duke, and they didn't even finish top 5 in their conference. They finished 8-4, and that's not necessarily a bad season. But with the expectations this Clemson team should have after being consistently a national title contender and even winning a couple national titles in the 2010s, this definitely wasn't the season Clemson wanted. And although coaches and players are starting to adapt to the transfer portal and NIL, Dabo Swinney struggles to adapt, and he likes to complain way too much. Dabo Swinney honestly just annoys me, but I mean, I guess it's whatever. Maybe Clemson just isn't that good anymore. And at number 1 for the most disappointed team on the year, I have USC. It doesn't get much more disappointing than this USC team. Another coach who really needs to figure stuff out, because it's ironic that Lincoln Riley coached for both Oklahoma and USC and had amazing offenses, but he had terrible defenses for both teams. And that, my friend, will not win you the big games that matter the most. You have to have defense to win the big games. And that's a big reason USC could not beat Utah last year. And it's because their defense is not that good. And when they played Utah, they got absolutely destroyed, and Utah was a way too physical team for them. And coming into this year, USC was loaded with talent. They were ranked in the top 10 to start the year. They were even above Clemson. But of course, they finished with a 7-5 record. And their defense got even worse than it was last year. Like, imagine if USC didn't have Caleb Williams. You probably wouldn't even make a bowl game. It's honestly pathetic that a team with so much talent and a guy like Caleb Williams can't win more than 7 games. You thought last year was disappointing? Try being a fan of USC in 2023. Sorry if I have any USC fans out there watching. I feel sorry for you guys. And I hope you guys can figure out the whole situation on defense. And it's not going to get easier moving into the Big Ten and having to play teams like Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. But you know a game we all want to see in 2023 that couldn't be any more stupider, but actually fun to watch? How about that amazing Iowa offense versus that amazing USC defense? Screw the national title game. I want Iowa versus USC. The game of a lifetime. But I guess if we don't see it this year, we will see it in the future. And I doubt much is going to change about these teams. And USC might get even worse without Caleb Williams. But anyways, I'm done ranting about USC. I don't think anyone can get mad at me for making fun of USC because you have absolutely no argument for USC. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also turn on notifications so you never miss an upload, because we post daily college football videos. But other than that, I just want to say I hope you all enjoy the conference championship games this weekend, and enjoy them as best as you can, because going forward with the new 12-team playoff, we may never see games like Alabama and Georgia and Oregon and Washington that have so much on the line. We may see those games, but they're not going to have the same stakes, because the landscape of college football is about to turn upside down. And no matter if you agree with all the changes or not, I do have to admit, I'm really excited for next year. And I wish I didn't have to wait. But the season is almost over, so I'm going to enjoy the end of the season the best I can. But that is going to do it for the video, guys, and peace out.